In 1951, the Royal Canadian Navy appointed a new doctor to one of its military bases. The man treated soldiers, entered operating rooms, and gained the complete trust of the officers. But after a short period of time, the government discovered that this doctor was not a doctor at all. He had never studied medicine, and he was not the person whose name appeared on the official documents. Even stranger, the military base was not an ordinary place that anyone could enter. It was a facility with strict security procedures, and yet this man managed to pass through all of those procedures as if he truly belonged there. How did one man manage to deceive an entire government for years? How did he gain the trust of officers and soldiers? How did he enter an operating room without anyone discovering the truth? And was he an extraordinary genius? Or were people simply trusting appearances more than they should? And now, welcome to Saravex. The man's real name was Ferdinand Demara, but he rarely used that name. Throughout his life, he moved between different identities as if he were changing clothes. He pretended to be a monk, then a teacher, then a university professor, then a military officer. And every time, people believed him. Demara was born in the United States in the 1920s. He was not wealthy, nor was he exceptionally gifted in school, but he possessed a very rare ability to read people and understand how they think. From a young age, he noticed something strange. If a person appeared confident, most people stopped asking questions. At first, his impersonations were simple, but they worked. With each success, he became bolder until he decided to carry out the most dangerous deception of his life. Demara obtained forged documents bearing the name of a real doctor in the Royal Canadian Navy. It was not just an ID card, it was a complete file that looked entirely official. When he arrived at the naval base, he did not behave like someone afraid of being exposed. He acted like a man who had worked there for years. He walked through the military gates. The soldiers greeted him. The officers quickly reviewed his papers and allowed him inside. How could a man with no medical degree enter a military institution so easily? The answer was simple and terrifying at the same time. Documents that looked authentic, and confidence that never wavered. During the first few days, Demara tried to avoid complicated cases. He spent nights reading medical books and memorizing terminology at incredible speed, then used those terms in front of the medical staff as if he were a professional physician. If he encountered a difficult case, he would request additional tests to buy time. But that did not last long. One day, a group of sailors arrived with serious injuries, and there was no other doctor available. Suddenly, Demara found himself standing in a real operating room. He looked at the surgical instruments, then at the patients, and he realized that a single mistake could kill a real human being. What does an imposter do when he becomes responsible for human lives? The shocking part is that he did not run away. He relied on medical books, asked the staff for assistance, and began performing surgeries. And almost unbelievably, most of the patients survived. After successfully treating the soldiers, the officers' respect for him grew. He became the doctor who had saved the sailors. The government paid him an official salary. The base granted him broader authority, and the soldiers trusted their lives to his decisions. At this point, the story became even stranger. Demara did not know everything, but he understood a dangerous psychological truth. People tend to believe someone who appears confident. He spoke steadily, used the correct terminology, and avoided hesitation. Over time, everyone began treating him as a real doctor. Every deception contains a small mistake that can destroy everything. After his success with the injured soldiers, a local newspaper published a story about the talented doctor serving in the Navy. The newspaper eventually reached someone who knew the real doctor whose name Demara had been using. The man looked at the photograph and said, That's not him. And from that moment, the investigation began. When the authorities reviewed his records, one surprise appeared after another. The credentials were forged. The identity had been stolen. And the man working as a doctor had never studied medicine. The shock was not just the forgery itself, but the length of time he had operated without being discovered. How could one man deceive officers, doctors, government institutions, and an entire military base? When the authorities confronted him, he did not collapse as they expected. He remained strangely calm, as if he were accustomed to having his schemes uncovered. In fact, some of the people who had worked with him refused to believe he was a fraud, because his performance had been so convincing that some thought he had done a better job than certain real doctors. Ferdinand Demara transformed from an ordinary criminal into a phenomenon studied by researchers. And in the end, the real question was not how he was exposed, but how he had remained undiscovered for so long. The story of Ferdinand Demara is not just about fraud. It reveals something much deeper. Sometimes a person does not need money or influence to reach places where he has no right to be. He only needs to appear confident enough for everyone to stop asking questions. That is why the most frightening part of the story is not that he impersonated a doctor. It is that an entire government believed him.